This will be our fourth podcast. We've been absent for a while. Horst was in Canada teaching a semester. So for our fourth podcast, Horst Hutter will be discussing Nihilism, Religions, and Eternal Recurrence by Nietzsche. Horst is emeritus and distinguished from Concordia University in Canada.
The main idea that I want to present tonight is that every religion presents or creates an order of the human soul which introduces an order into the conflictual multiplicity that each one of us is, that settles conflicts peaceably, and in so doing creates a community among like-minded people. Now, the religion establishes rules of conduct. It is based always on a myth. Myths cannot be proven to be literally true. They can only be understood allegorically, tropologically, and anagogically. I will have to say a few things about this distinction between allegorical, tropological, and anagogical distinctions. Let me use as an example the notion that is very widespread in the Christian religion, the Christian world order, the Christian order of the soul, that every human being should imitate Jesus and bear the cross. Now, a stupid literalist might interpret this to mean that bearing the cross in the way Jesus has done it means to go to a carpenter, have him make a cross, and then walk around with the cross. Now, there are Christian religious people in the Philippines I read about who do precisely that. There were in antiquity religious people, Christians and non-Christians, who did this also, but I do not think such a literal interpretation is correct. Let me just suggest an allegorical, tropological, and then anagogical interpretation of the Christian myth of bearing the cross. Now, allegorically, what this could mean is that every human life involves some kind of suffering. And the allegorical interpretation of bearing the cross means that we have to accept the suffering that comes to us unwanted. It does not mean that we have to seek suffering, but whatever comes to us, we have to bear it and learn from it in such a way as to profit from whatever befalls us in our fate, in our line of fate, in time. Now, in so doing, I become aware that I have to change my life. I have to do things other than what I have been doing, and I have to sort of deal with whatever befalls me in a creative way. Suffering can be dealt with creatively. Now, this is the tropological interpretation of the Christian myth. Tropological is derived from the Greek word from trepein, means to turn around, and the tropological interpretation is an interpretation which then calls upon me to change my life and to live differently from the way I have lived so far. In ancient times, when Christianity first arose, under the auspices of Saint Paul, the founder, the myth maker, the founder of Christianity, when many Christians would go into the desert in order to avoid certain forms of contact with other human beings, and thereby to avoid inevitable suffering. Now, we cannot all do this, we have to live in life. So the tropological interpretation that I propose is one that I have to examine myself on a daily basis. I have to deal with whatever befalls me in a creative manner. And the anagogical, the third level of meaning then, is the anagogical. What can I hope from this? What I can hope from it is that I live a satisfying life, that I spend the time that is allotted to me in a creative manner. And all living is spending time. That is, we are, as it were, all prisoners of time. We have a past, we have a present, and we have a future. No one can will backwards. We can only will forwards, and all willing is done right here, right now, willing forward. Whatever we do in willing forwards is shaped by what we have done in the past. And that's where Nietzsche's idea of eternal recurrence comes in. Nietzsche sees that Christianity is in nihilistic dissolution. That is, the Christian myth about the one true God who has created the world is no longer believable. Hence he advocates God is dead. And it does not matter that God is dead. Now we of course live in an age now where Islam is similarly undergoing nihilistic dissolution. That is, the ISIS crisis now is exactly that. That is what happens when the order of the soul, that on which a religion is based, that is created by the religion, when the order of the soul breaks down, people feel despair, they feel threatened. And the breakdown of the order of the soul awakens aggressive impulses. For example, the nihilistic dissolution of Christianity in the 19th and then in the early 20th century produced frightful events such as the great Christian slaughter called World War I, and then the whole Nazi experiment, the Auschwitz syndrome, and Stalinism at the same time. These are then substitute religions that try to give meaning, they try to channel aggressivity in a creative manner, in an anagogical manner. Of course, it does not work, because the whole order is breaking down, and we will see this also with the ISIS event. That is the nihilistic dissolution of Islam that we are undergoing now. Islam is a bit behind, shall we say. There were, I'm remembering an Egyptian scholar by the name of Said Qutb. He studied in the United States, and he had read Nietzsche, and he saw, he agreed with Nietzsche's analysis of the nihilistic dissolution of the Christian moral order, the Christian order of the soul. And he wanted to avoid the same thing from happening with Islam. So when he went back, he wrote a text called Milestones, in which he shows why Christianity is dissolving, what is happening, and how Islam could avoid a similar fate. Of course, we know now, 100 years after his lifetime, that he has not succeeded. Right? That is, we have not yet overcome the dissolution of the order of the soul, which now has also affected not only Islam, but Judaism and other monotheistic religiosities. That is, we are facing a nihilistic crisis that is worldwide. Now Nietzsche argues that nihilism is not something new in Christianity, beginning in the 18th and 19th century, or continuing in the 20th century in Islam, but nihilism has occurred before in ancient times in Hinduism. Nietzsche understands Buddha and Buddhism as a response to the nihilistic dissolution of Hinduism, as an attempt to save the order of the soul, or to create a new order of the soul. Hence, for example, the Buddha begins from an attack on the Hindu order of the soul. It begins from an attack on the notion of reincarnation, of human beings wanting reincarnation, desiring it, wanting, searching for a good reincarnation. And what the Buddha advocates is, do not search for reincarnation, search for nirvana. No reincarnation. That's the best. Now Nietzsche understands this very well, and he proposes a similar strategy for the creating a new order of the soul, and that is in his doctrine of the eternal recurrence of the same. It is with this doctrine that Nietzsche thinks of himself as the Buddha of Europe, as shaping a new form of Buddhism. Now, what is eternal recurrence of the same? Is not a doctrine. As a matter of fact, Nietzsche believes that as a doctrine it would be horrible. He for example, talks about Heraclitus' idea that everything that has happened in the world will happen over and over again, exactly in the same sequence. This is the vicious cycle that is not something to be desired. Eternal recurrence is a teaching about focusing on the right here and right now, looking at the past, accepting the past by totally affirming myself right here, right now, as a consequence of everything that has happened to me, that I have done, and then looking forward to in such a way that I will avoid all the things, because affirmation does not mean approval. If I affirm myself, it doesn't mean that I approve everything that I have done, every stupidity that I have uttered, etc. So is that in that sense? So is it focusing on the right here, right now, leaving the past behind and looking to the future? Recurrence of the same is very similar to the Buddhist practice of mindfulness. This is what the Buddha proposes. Instead of looking have a good reincarnation, to act now in such a way as to have a reincarnation as such and such or as such and such, the Buddha says, forget this. Do not aim to do that. Aim for nothing. Aim for absolute nirvana. And in so doing, you create the freedom. Now there may still be reincarnation. I may still be determined in my reincarnation 1,000 years from now, or whenever it happens, by what I've done in this life or what I've done in my private life. But it does not concern me now. Similarly, in terms of the Christian or Muslim, striving for salvation in the beyond, in the eternal Godhead thing, it is similar. This may well exist, and there may well be a heaven and hell, but I am not concerned with this now. Right now, all I want is to be completely free of the past. And I can be free of the past if I totally affirm it, do not seek to repeat it, and then I strive to the future in such a way, and I can do this on a daily basis. This is Nietzsche following Plato, suggests that Plato advocates a daily practice of shaping the day for the tomorrow in such a way to go through the day. What have I done today? Have I done something bad? Have I done something wrong? Have I done something good? But it doesn't matter. I want to do the day differently tomorrow. Now, it may well be that when I die, right, that whatever happens, happens. I do not know. But it's not of a concern. So the opposition between the Nietzschean doctrine of a category of eternal recurrence of the same, and let's say Christianity, is the Christian has to be concerned all the time, has to ask for forgiveness so that he can have a good eternal life. That is, he lives in the vicinity of God. Now Nietzsche points out all kinds of things that are so fundamentally wrong with the Christian doctrine of eternal life. He points out that, for example, one of the greatest Christian thinkers, the main founder of the Christian moral order, I forget his name for the moment, but Tertullian, he advocates, for example, that one of the pleasures of the saved in heaven will be that they can wash the tortures of the damned in hell. Right? Now, Nietzsche completely rejects that, because that is simply a replication of everything that has happened before. This is not what we should wish for. What we should wish for is a good future, but a future that is finite. That is, and I have to accept the finitude of that future, and that's eternal recurrence as a practice.
Thank you, Horst. Thank you very much for this. It was very fruitful.